It's Derek Lamb with the John Maxwell team, and the John Maxwell team and what I do personally with the John Maxwell team is to coach and teach leadership. Leadership is what makes the world go round, and most of you know, just watching the news, we have leadership problems not only in our communities and our businesses, but in the country and world. So how do you solve leadership problems? One of the biggest keys to leadership is learning how to follow first, being teachable, being open to suggestions. Collaboration is one of the most important things to do. As a leader, you don't need to know everything. I call it the Ronald Reagan style of leadership. He wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He was an actor, as Doc Brown said, for crying out loud. But he knew how to call people around him who he believed in, who he inspired, and he gave ownership to solve problems. So learning how to follow and not thinking you need to be the smartest person in the room always helps you lead better. In fact, at the John Maxwell team, here's what John says. Look around where you're working now, and if you're the absolute smartest, sharpest person there, you need to move on. You need to go on to another challenge. You need to go solve problems and challenges that are bigger, because you'll never grow as a leader until you're outgrowing with your challenges. I've never really had that problem. I'm a pretty average person, but I am way above average and passionate about my own personal growth and about helping other people grow personally. I love to see people go from Z to T and from T to H and hopefully even H to B or A. I call it the John Stockton syndrome. If you're not a National Basketball Association fan, I apologize, but John Stockton and Karl Malone played for the Utah Jazz for about 15 years, and I'm a Utah and a Utah Jazz fan. Allen Iverson played about the same time, and he was a very, very good basketball player. He was a guard, just like John Stockton was a guard. I'm going to jump back before I finish that story and tell you about a personal story I had. I grew up in a small town, 15 kids in my graduating high school class, 130 kids 7 through 12, so you got to play a lot of sports. But at that 1A level, we had really good basketball teams, and I had the chance to play guard as a freshman on the varsity team because one of our seniors went down. And I was a good shot. I could drive to the basket, I could shoot the old jump shot, but I remember as a senior, Wayne Jones moved to town, a 6'5". We hadn't had anybody over 6 foot. And I remember the first few practices and how I could drive and drill and dribble a pass in or throw a pass high and he could just tip it in. Sometimes he'd even dunk it. And I became the assist king. And you know what I found out about myself? I got as many endorphins when I'd pass that ball to Jones and Jones would put it in. People say, how did you thread that ball through there? How did you do that? I remember one game I missed, the team said, man, we really missed your leadership and your assists. They didn't say they missed my points. So my point is this, back to John Stockton. He came in the lead a year before Karl Malone, and his assists were okay. But the next year, Karl Malone joined him, and his assists skyrocketed, and he has over 15,000. No one ever touched John Stockton's record. But Karl Malone is the number 2 scorer in NBA history. Number 2, behind only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But he would never be there if it wasn't for John Stockton. So 1-2 punch and leadership. People used to ask him, who's the leader, John or Karl? I don't know if it really mattered. When they had the NBA All-Star game here, they both won the MVP. Whatever. Some people thought it was corny. Jazz fans knew it was true. I don't know which one. If 2 phenomenons are important to make something happen, one can't say one is more important than the other. I can tell you this, Karl Malone would not be the leading scorer in the NBA. Second leading scorer without John Stockton. But John Stockton wouldn't be the assist leader he is today if it wasn't for Karl Malone running that floor and putting him in position to do so. So what does that have to do with leadership? You have to become a good follower to be a good leader. You have to put the limelight on somebody else. Level 5 leadership means if you're leading an organization and someone's faster and stronger than you, and yet they make less money or they're below you, cheer them on to the finish line like Karl and John did. You'd hear them interview and they'd say, ones that just brag about the other person. Let me tell you how important assists are. assisting other people in leadership. John Wooden, many would say, is the most successful basketball coach of all time, UCLA. He said John Stockton's the most unique player he's ever seen play the game of basketball. The only player in the NBA I would ever pay to go see in person. I think assists in leadership and following before you lead is critical. This is Derek Lamb with the John Maxwell team.